What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, following on from yesterday's, where I discussed my plans this week to add positions into 4 more sectors in the form of my energy sector, materials, real estate and my utility sector pies. And the reason I wanted to add further positions into these portfolio pies is because I believe I'm lacking diversification in these 4 sectors. For example, in the energy sector I only have 2 holdings. I only have 1 in materials, 1 in real estate, and I currently have none in the utilities. And after doing further research last night, I'm going to start with the energy sector today. So before we get into today's video, as always, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing to this channel as we're currently on 408 subscribers. So it would be really helpful if you consider doing so. With all that being said, let's dive right into my energy portfolio on Trading212. So yesterday was certainly a good day in terms of my overall portfolio, where it went up about 3 or 4% overall. We currently are now up 9.11% and we have €4,867 invested and we are up €406. If we scroll down here to my energy sector, which we'll be focusing on today, we are currently €179.81 invested and are currently up an impressive 18%. Considering that these 2 stocks that I'm currently holding were in the red for the majority of my investment journey so far, and we're currently in week 9, but I believe it's up so much because the dollar cost averaged when it dropped below 5% over the last few weeks, so that does really make the difference long term dollar cost averaging. Currently, my 2 holdings are ExxonMobil with 12.58% profit so far and Chevron with 23.63%. Now, as if you looked at my prior videos, you would have seen that I'm going to only have 5 companies maximum per sector, but because in the energy sector, for example, the 2 companies I have at the moment are more old school kind of energy style stocks, I want to incorporate in a more renewable style energy company to help improve my diversification overall. And after doing some extensive research yesterday evening after work, I've kind of come to the conclusion that although there is some good individual clean energy companies such as Brookfield Energy that a lot of my subscribers have mentioned in prior videos, so thanks for mentioning that, but I believe, for example, the clean energy sector in my opinion is more like the electric vehicle sector, or let's say the cannabis sector, where it's quite hard to pick a lot of the good companies. So overall I think it's best at the moment for me to pick an ETF for the clean energy. And to be honest, for the 4 companies or 4 sectors that I've mentioned at the start of the video, the energy, materials, real estate and utilities, these will kind of be probably my 4 smallest holdings, and it's always kind of harder to pick solid companies in these 4 sectors in comparison to, let's say, my consumer discretionary, where everyone knows of Tesla, McDonald's, etc., all the blue chip stocks, or communication services, for example, Facebook, Walt Disney, all well-known blue chip brands. So in my own opinion, I'd be better off kind of picking the best ETFs for each of these 4 sectors, as I believe this will give me an overall diversification across the board. Like for example, in the clean energy sector, we're covering this today, there's everything from, let's say, sun to wind to water energy. There's numerous different kinds of renewable clean energy. So I believe besides picking 5 or 6 or 7 individual companies across the board here, I think I'm better off having a vast diversification across the clean energy sector. In the long term, I believe that will be a good decision. And the clean energy ETF that I decided to go with is the Ishares Global Clean Energy UCITS ETF. And if we scroll down here, we can see that their ticker symbol is INRG. And the top 3 reasons you can see on the website here is 1, exposure to broadly diversified clean energy companies, direct investment into over 30 global companies, and clean energy sector exposure across the board. We can also see here that their investment objective, the fund seeks to track the performance of the index composed of 30 of the largest global companies involved in the clean energy sector. And again, I believe that because I want a vast diversification across this kind of clean energy sector, I believe an ETF is key. So having over 30 of the biggest clean energy companies in the one ETF is certainly what I want in my own portfolio. We can see here some key facts for the global iShares is that as of the 16th of November, they have over 3 billion in net assets. They launched in July 2007. They have an expense ratio of 0.65%. They are domiciled in Ireland. If we scroll down here, we see they rebalance semi-annually. Their Bloomberg ticker is INRGLN for the London Stock Exchange. You can see the fund manager is BlackRock. Their asset class is equities. Their ISIN we can see here as well if you're looking for that. And their use of income is distributing. In terms of the ETF's portfolio characteristics, they currently have over 246 million shares outstanding. We can see their distribution yield is 1.12. Their PE ratio is 32.51. We can see as well the fiscal year end is the 31st of October and their PE ratio is currently 3.64%. As well as being diversified across different clean energy sectors such as clean energy water, light, wind, etc. It is also very important to be diversified across the globe, and this ETF certainly incorporates that in my opinion. We can see here their exposure breakdown. 31.69% of the fund is in the US, 10.45% in New Zealand. We then have Denmark, China, Spain, Canada, Austria, Brazil, Portugal and Norway making up the top 10 holdings. We can also see in the exposure breakdown what each sector is involved in this energy ETF. Now you could say, hang on, how was 53.98% of the energy sector utilities? But they mean by that let's say in the utility sector, 53.98% is due to clean energy that's involved in the utility sector. So that's what they mean by that. So we can see that 53.98% is in utilities, 21.5% is in IT, 21.49% is in industrials, 2.38% is in the energy sector directly, and they also hold cash and or derivatives of 0.64%. So here's a detailed list of all their holdings on this ETF. We have the tickers, the name, sector, the asset classes, market value, weightings, shares, etc., all the way up to exchanges and market currency. If we scroll back to the left, we can see, for example, their top holding is Plug Power. It's in the industrial sector that's involved in clean energy. Equity, we can see here that's 5.55% weightings. We can see the number of shares, the CDAL, current price. We can see here, for example, the exchanges. So we have everything from the Nasdaq to the New Zealand exchange. We have the Bolsa de Madrid. We have some Germany exchanges here, Hong Kong, Toronto. If we scroll down further, we can see we have the extra, we have Korea, Tel Aviv, etc. So there really is very diversified in my opinion. We can also see the country of location, and again it's great to see a vast array of different countries that will really help improve your diversification overall. If any of you would like a copy of this Excel sheet that really does go into detail across the board, across all different headings for this ETF, message me below in the comment section and send me on your email address, or you could even just send me an email to nowandneverfinance@gmail.com and I will definitely send this on to you, as it's quite handy to look through as well for your own sake. What I also like about this ETF is when you scroll down here, it does also have, for example, it obviously involved in currency exposure. So we have USD, DKK, CAD, HKD, etc. Also in cash reserve. So it's definitely good to see they're hedging their currencies, which should be in every good ETF. So I just added in the Ishares Global Clean Energy ETF into my energy sector pie. Now I could have also added it into the ETF pie here, but I want to keep this ETF pie separate in terms of this is tracking the overall markets. For example, the Vanguard S&P 500 is in the US, top 500 companies, and the Vanguard FTSE 100 GBP is obviously in the UK. So I want to keep this ETF pie separate, and I think it's best to keep the clean energy ETF in the energy sector pie. And as I've also stated that I won't be investing any capital this week, I have just put the Ishares Global ETF in here at the moment with no investment. And once I have my company picked for my materials, real estate and utility sectors as well, once all that's incorporated in, next week's plan then will be to start feeding some of my capital into each of these companies or ETFs, and also putting more money into any of my current positions in any of my sector pies that have dropped below 3% to improve my dollar cost averaging there. So next week could certainly be a busy week in terms of the investment front. But all that being said, guys, that brings the end to today's video. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, it would be brilliant if you would consider smashing that like button, and as always, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing, as it would really help the channel out going forward. That was just my synopsis and my reasoning behind why I'm adding the Clean Energy Ishares ETF into my overall investment portfolio. Thanks very much guys, and we will see you in tomorrow's video.